Good evening. Former Vice President Kamala Harris is stepping back into the national spotlight, but perhaps not entirely on her own terms. While a new book about her 2024 campaign and a national listening tour are fueling speculation about a potential 2028 presidential bid, she's also drawing scrutiny from Capitol Hill. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer has signaled he is highly likely to issue a subpoena for Harris to testify in his committee's ongoing probe. That investigation centers on allegations of a cover-up regarding the cognitive health of former President Joe Biden during his time in office. Comer stated that with Harris now not running for governor of California, she will have, in his words, more time to come before the House Oversight Committee. This potential legal and political clash puts Harris in a difficult position. She has been carefully cultivating a post-White House image, telling interviewers she wants to travel the country and listen to people without the transactional nature of asking for a vote. However, a congressional subpoena could disrupt that narrative. Legal experts suggest that while Harris Allen is a natural witness for the committee's inquiry, given her unique position as vice president, securing her testimony would be anything but straightforward. Former House Oversight Chair Trey Gowdy predicts that any attempt to compel her appearance would likely become mired in lengthy legal battles over executive privilege. This is the principle that protects communications between a president and their advisors. Gowdy noted that litigating whether a vice president can be forced to discuss conversations with the president, his chief of staff, or even the president's physician could take years to resolve. Legal scholar Jonathan Turley agrees, adding that for a subpoena to be effective, investigators would need to ask highly specific, fact-based questions to prevent a witness from dismissing them as matters of opinion. The threat alone, however, creates challenging optics for anyone with future presidential aspirations. This standoff is just one symptom of a deeply divided Washington, a division also paralyzing the confirmation process for key government posts. As the Senate departs for its month-long August recess, more than 150 of President Donald Trump's nominees are left waiting in limbo. The backlog affects critical areas of the federal government, from the judiciary to national security. Among those awaiting confirmation are former National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, nominated to be the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, and Andrew Puzder, the nominee for U.S. Ambassador to the European Union, a vital post given the EU's status as a major American trading partner. The Department of Justice also has key leadership roles unfilled, including the Associate Attorney General, and U.S. Attorney positions in several states remain vacant. Bipartisan talks to clear a path for these nominees collapsed before the recess, prompting sharp words from both sides. Senate Majority Leader John Thune declared the confirmation process broken and in desperate need of reform. In response, Senate Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer defended the delays, stating that lawmakers have never seen nominees as flawed, as compromised, as unqualified as we have right now. In a rare moment of progress, former Fox News host Jeanine Pirro was confirmed as the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Her confirmation is particularly timely, as many interim prosecutors appointed by the administration are nearing a 120-day term limit, after which the courts would be responsible for making appointments if a Senate-confirmed successor is not in place. And that partisan friction isn't confined to the Capitol. In Texas, a dramatic showdown is unfolding as dozens of Democratic state legislators have fled the state in an effort to block a Republican-led redistricting plan. By leaving Texas, the Democrats deny the state house the minimum number of members, known as a quorum, required to conduct official business and hold a vote. At least 51 of the chamber's Democratic members have reportedly left, a last-ditch effort to derail a proposal they say is an extreme partisan gerrymander. The new map, which has the backing of President Trump, could create as many as 5 new Republican-held U.S. House seats in the 2026 midterm elections. The current proposal would redraw districts to tilt traditionally Democratic cities like Dallas and Houston in favor of Republicans and would reportedly draw at least one sitting Democrat, Representative Jasmine Crockett, out of her own district. The move carries significant risks for the lawmakers, who could face fines or even arrest, with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton threatening to have them apprehended. However, the House Democratic Caucus chair defended the decision, calling it an act of absolute moral clarity. The Democratic National Committee has voiced its full support for the Texas Democrats, while the Republican Speaker of the Texas House, Dustin Burrows, issued a stark warning that if a quorum is not present when the House convenes, all options will be on the table. While lawmakers battle over political maps, a different kind of fight is heading to the courts, challenging a nearly century-old federal gun law. A new lawsuit has been filed in federal court in Missouri targeting the National Firearms Act of 1934, or NFA. Historically, the NFA has regulated items like firearm suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and short-barreled shotguns by treating them as a class of weapons subject to a special excise tax. For decades, purchasing one of these items legally required registration and the payment of a $200 tax stamp. The legal challenge stems from a recent law supported by President Trump, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which reduced that $200 tax to zero. The plaintiffs in the lawsuit, a collection of gun rights groups, argue that this change is fundamental. They contend that because the law no longer functions as a revenue-generating tax measure, its remaining registration requirement is unconstitutional. In their view, the NFA has been effectively transformed from a tax law into an illegal firearms registry, which they argue violates the Second Amendment. The lawsuit is not seeking to simply reinstate the tax. Instead, it asks the court to declare that these items should be removed from regulation under the National Firearms Act altogether. From domestic law to international trade, the Trump administration is signaling a firm, unyielding stance on another front: tariffs. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer has stated that the administration's current tariff levels are now pretty much set and that Americans should not expect them to be negotiated down. This declaration serves as a clear message to global trading partners, including those who may have been hoping to strike new deals to lower the duties on their goods. Greer's comments suggest a doubling down on the protectionist trade policies that have been a hallmark of the administration. These policies have included broad tariffs on steel and aluminum, as well as massive targeted tariffs on goods from China, sparking a prolonged trade war. The assertion that these rates are essentially locked in creates a challenging environment for international diplomacy and commerce. For countries that have yet to secure a trade deal with the U.S., the door for negotiation appears to be closing. This rigid stance could have significant ripple effects, potentially solidifying higher prices for American consumers and businesses that rely on imported materials, while also straining relationships with key allies who have been caught in the crossfire of these trade disputes. The message from the administration is one of finality, leaving many to wonder about the future of global trade cooperation.